kind of each season making a little bit more progress in who he was able to beat and that kind of thing. So it's been a long time since the last season of the DreamHack SC2 Masters, but here we are to crown a champion yet again. One of these players is going to get that privilege of facing off versus me. We'll see who it's going to be as we start down here, the bottom left-hand side of the map. On top of the blue Zerg player from Shopify Rebellion, she is Scarlett.
And that, of course, means that at the top right side of 2K Atmospheres, we look in the main base with a man who's representing Alpha X and would probably beat me if we would end up playing. It is Astrea.
I like the probably, Kev.
Me too.
Just a little bit of hope.
Yeah, probably is a good thing. I can work with probably.
Well, I think that it's always a little bit of uncertainty when you're facing off against Astrea. He does have some very, very cheeky, clever styles. And I say cheeky, but I think only some of them are a bit more cheeky. A lot of them are just kind of like macro-oriented builds, but they do look a little bit silly sometimes. I'm very reminiscent of Astrea's PVT from about a year ago, where he was even facing off against a lot of the Koreans, and he was just expanding so quickly. He'd be like 2 bases, 3 bases up on a Terran player and just not taking any gas geysers, massing out the zealots and being really successful with it. He's that kind of player who will throw out some weird curveballs, and it's always a treat to see. But you know what's kind of funny, Kev, is that I feel like Astrea's been playing a lot more normal this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It hasn't been that wild. A lot of it just kind of made sense as you know, my traumatized Protoss heart always kind of skips a beat when I see a Zerg player take a gas. Like, even if it's 2 seconds earlier than they are supposed to take it, right? I feel like 111, 112 is normal. And if I see a Zerg take the gas at 109, I'm like, is it happening? And it's probably not happening, guys. Sometimes the Zergs just like to get it a little bit faster for the slightly quicker Zergling speed. And since Scarlett is still building drones, I don't think Scarlett is going to do anything wild here. But I think you're right. For a while, Astrea truly had like his super own unique style and everything was different about him. It became a bit more normal. He's just very good at executing the normal builds.
Yeah. Actually, the more that I think about it, the more I'd actually liken it to last year. It was almost kind of like Astrea was in a lighter version of Max Packs, where he had a unique way of playing. Not many people played exactly the way that Astrea did, but he was still very skilled and actually making a lot of you know, big results and everything. But I think it's, like I said, it's definitely toned down from since then, and he's actually going to be doing something that is, I would have to say, very meta right now, and open up with just the Stargate opening and adding on that first Void Ray while the Adept tries to find some damage.
Oh, that was cool. I love the little things. Astrea knew that drone, the second drone, was also going to try to morph into a Spore Crawler. So while he already shot at that drone, he tried to move the Adept right next to the drone over and over and over again to prevent the surface area from a Spore Crawler to go down. But Scarlett still found some room to save her drone. It's the little things. Well done by both players.
Yeah. Hey, Kev, I want to ask you, what do you think about this wall off?
It's a wall off that if you play against the barcode, they will bailing boss you. I'll tell you that much. But sometimes, like, it also becomes a trick where it's almost like it's so tempting to bailing boss that the Protoss players kind of want you to bailing boss because they're going to deal with it anyway. Maybe slightly more relevant than this wall off is this super quick Twilight Council follow up. And I'll never forget that interview where Astrea said, I don't even really like playing with Adepts and Resonating Glaives, but I just know that Scarlett really hates it, and that's why I decided to go for it. This is a bit different because it's not, you know, the 3-gate Adept or 4-gate Adept with a Robo, but it's still a Void Ray into super quick Adepts. Now, obviously, going Adepts means you don't want to lose any Adepts. It's going to be close, but I think the Adept will live. My goodness.
Yeah, solid defense there, barely surviving, literally almost a 1 hit away from dying there. And a little surprised that the Adept was even out there at that exact position, but it ends up working out. And now Scarlett, having seen a handful of Adepts, is going to be just making a few more Zerglings after having lost hers and adding on that Roach Warren.
Is that Roach Warren late to deal with these Adepts? Like,
it feels pretty late, considering I think the Roach Warren will finish after Resonating Glaives.
Yep. I actually think Scarlett could be in a little bit of trouble here because this is a reasonable amount of Adepts. Now, 8 Adepts is something that Queens and Zerglings can still deal with. but it's obviously looking a little bit scary. Scarlett's going to try to buy some time. I wonder if Astrea decides to warp in a few more adepts. One adept is misrallied. This is bad for two reasons. One, obviously losing an adept is bad of your push. The second big reason is that now the push is actually stalled out a little bit because Astrea turned around for a split second there. And I actually think Scarlett is going to hold this very comfortably in the end.
Yeah, it even gave her a bit of an opportunity to get her queens into position for the most part. But oh, shades in and immediately attacks the gas guys. There's a little bit of a misclick there. Misses an opportunity for one round of damage. And let me tell you something, Kev, these adepts don't actually get that many rounds of attacks. Almost all of them get cleaned up. There are some more reinforcing it over here at the third base. Managed to get 2 worker kills before potentially shading out, but even that is going to be a little bit questionable. I'm not sure all of them will survive it, and yeah, I'm not sure any of them will survive it.
Oh, we lost 11 adepts and only killed 4 drones. That is not good if you're on Team Protoss. Of course, Astrea did manage to take out almost 40 Zerglings already in this game, and that is something that he could maybe work with. But I think overall, Scarlett can be quite happy with her defenses there. And yeah, I'm glad you called that misclick, because if that first volley doesn't all go on the extractor, but it actually goes on the Zerglings, I think those adepts in a natural would have been a lot more successful.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, this was, like you were saying, it's not the end of the world. This wasn't even like a 4-gate adept resonating glaive thing, so he can try to bounce back from this since it was just 3 gateways. And he's already got those shield batteries being built, the cannon being built over here to just try and help make sure that there is a solid defense for any kind of attack. And well, Scarlett is kind of poached around, not only just knocking down the rocks, but moving around with her units as though she does want to keep an eye out on any potential things that Astrea tries to do with these units.
I'm kind of curious about what Scarlett is up to. It seems like we're just going to rush into Hive and try to get Lurkers out. Now, Lambo's got this really cool style with Lurkers where he's like, yeah, I know Vipers are good, but I'm actually very comfortable without Vipers. I know that I will just have so many units that I can just kind of run in and burrow on top of the Protoss army. I wonder what Scarlett, her approach is going to be. If she's going to go just Lurkers as well, go kind of gung-ho with it, or if we're going to play a more passive game and get a couple static defenses up and running and actually go into Vipers.
Well, if it is a hyper fast rush to lurkers, Kev, I'm not gonna lie, seeing a Zerg player who has a lurker den nearly done, or like halfway done, I should say, when the first robo has just finished at this point and the observer is actually the first thing being produced, yeah, I'm actually thinking that this could work out pretty well. There's not going to be many immortals, and there's not going to be a lot of disruptors or anything very early on.
Well, I wonder what Astrea has seen. Astrea hasn't really seen that much in the main base. Never spotted that infestation pit. Never spotted the lair morphing into a hive. I have the feeling that. Yeah, maybe that's a little bit of a tell indeed. I like what Scarlett was doing though, bringing the queens to the front just for a split second, making the Protoss believe that it could also be queens and roaches. I don't know if Astrea would buy it or not, but once more, it's all the little things. Anything you can do to just confuse your opponent, even for a split second, will start adding up.
All right, Stalker's moving in on this bottom right-hand side alongside all the sentries. Scarlett is getting into position. There's not as much creep on this right-hand side. Stalker's doing a pretty aggressive blink forward. None of them are going to go down, but they do get softened up a little bit in exchange for a couple of those Zerglings. The lurkers burrowing over here, though, are going to be very difficult to break, especially without the observer. Oh! A lot of shots over there.
I was like, are we gonna blink on top of it or not? Seems like Astrea was setting up a little attack with the adepts on the left side, but Scarlett wouldn't be Scarlett if she didn't have awesome creep spread. And obviously the heads up of or the benefit of having all this creep is not just that your units move a lot quicker, but it's also that you can see all these ground attacks coming in. So Scarlett was already sending a couple of units over. This feels like a really smooth game coming out of Scarlett. 98 drones, Spear Dragon. 98 drones and like 5 bases almost up and running.
She has practically gotten away in this game undisturbed. Barely taken any real damage. Did get forced to make a few units to deal with the adepts initially, but after that, she's kind of just been on a roll. She's got all of her lurkers coming up. She already finished up Seismic Spines. She's getting her Adaptive Talons, and these lurkers are going to be so scary. There's 2 disruptors over here to help deal with them, but I mean, one of them has already fired their shot. The other one, well, it's gonna have a lot ahead of it that it has to accomplish.
Yep, overcharged batteries are good, but Scarlett takes it out. That's a good Nova though by Astrea, connecting with a couple of Hydras. But it seems like we don't have an observer here. No, the observer is in like surveillance mode in the center of the map. So Astrea can't even see these lurkers. I mean, Astrea's just in a lot of trouble. It feels like he's got no units. This Nova, wow, my goodness, that's a lot of damage on those 5-6 lurkers. But yeah, that's a lot of damage, but we can't finish them off.
Yeah, Zealot run by attempt over here with a Warp Prism, not so successful. Another Disruptor does knock out some of the Roaches. There aren't that many attacking units that, you know, attack while unburrowed over here. It's mostly just the Lurkers right now, but it really does feel like the Lurkers are already doing more than enough. That Pylon is going to go down, depowering one of the gateways and even one of the shield batteries that's helping keep Astrea alive a little bit longer. Zealots coming forward and some really good Novas continuing to connect. The Warp Prism not being quite as effective, but it just does seem like Scarlett is breaking through a little bit too far for Astrea to deal with.
Yep, the Warp Prism is not finding a lot of success. The Cybernetics Cord goes down, so even when the carriers pop, they won't have any attack upgrades. And I feel like even if the carriers come now, they're going to be super naked carriers. And if Scarlett just makes nothing but Hydras, which is exactly what she's doing, she's going to be fine. Astrea is going to try to still make magic happen with the Zealots on the other side of the map, but Scarlett is reading this so well, leaving plenty of units behind, and now even moving lurkers into the main base already. I think this game is pretty much all over, as Scarlett is still maxed out and Astrea is hovering around 100 supply.
Yeah, I think Astrea at this point is about to tap out. There it is. GG. Scarlett takes the first game in a really convincing fashion, honestly.
Yep, it just didn't quite work out what Astrea was doing. Like, the Adept attack was obviously by no means all in, because Astrea was building probes non-stop behind it. But you do want to find some damage, and losing 11 Adepts for only 4 drones, not exactly what Protoss dreams are made of. I just felt that Scarlett did a good job in first stalling the push a little bit, picking up one Adept that was kind of misrallied to dropping around in the center of the map. And after that, Scarlett was like, cool, now I'll just make nothing but drones. Astrea had that little move out with the sentries and the stalkers on the right side, something we saw Stats do with a lot of success in that stay-at-home Story Cup. But yeah, Scarlett already had lurkers, and the lurkers were just able to fire away. Nothing, and yeah, then obviously right when Astrea was like, all right, at least I've got 4 bases, I've got 80 probes. Can I make my transition into carriers? So you drop a fleet beacon, which is expensive, 2 extra Stargates that are very expensive. You start +1 air weapons. That's when a maxed out Scarlett shows up, and there was not even detection to deal with all these lurkers.
It really did feel like after the Adept push that came in, where, I mean, we were even a little bit worried about like the later Rotorn and stuff, but it all ended up working out thanks to just how those unit interactions happen in the middle of the map. But after the Adept plays, it really just also seemed like Scarlett had a great read on, yep, I know I'm going to have this amount of time. I know that I can get to lurkers safely before there's any kind of move out over there. I think that's another really key part of what allowed Scarlett to just say, yeah, I can be greedy and I can cut these corners and get away without having a lot of these units until I have lurkers out, because I'm not going to face any attacks. It just feels like Scarlett had a really good read on what Astrea was going to do that game.
Does Scarlett now have a 7-game win streak in the playoffs? I believe she does, right? Because it was 3-0 against Trigger and 3-0 against Nina. So ever since Scarlett dropped to the lower bracket here in the DreamHack SC2 Masters Summer, she has now won 7 games in a row. That's pretty good.
That's not bad, especially since it's all versus Protoss players. And, well, if she's able to take a 3-0 or something over here, that would be pretty damn impressive going into the grand finals against another Protoss player. We are jumping into that next game, and we already see a little bit of a mistake there from this young man. Down or up here in the top left-hand side of the map, the red Protoss player from Alpha X, he is Astrea.
And in the bottom right side of Lightshade, we are looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg player representing the Shopify Rebellion. It is Scarlett. Currently enjoying a 7-game win streak in the playoffs. If you guys were wondering why are Roddy and Fear the Dragon making very weird noises before the game has even started, as we were both like, Astrea made a little misclick, tried to split his workers, but sent all the probes behind the mineral line. Of course, corrected it quite quickly, but yeah, these are not nice things. Like, I personally get really bothered when that kind of stuff happens to me, and it's very easy to start telling yourself at that point, like, I'm just not playing well. Could be nerves, could just be misclicking.
Yeah, I feel like one of the most critical things about it is that it's less so about this is devastating for the game or anything, right? It's the players that make those kind of mistakes oftentimes are the players, not always, but oftentimes are the kind of players that are not necessarily already in a good place and that they are prone to making those kind of mistakes. It's usually not a good sign moving into a next new game.
No, very upsetting thing. It's like losing the Reaper in TVZ against the Queen and the Zerglings. It shouldn't end the game. It doesn't. Shouldn't have too much of an impact on how the game plays out. But they just bought as Terran players, and we saw it with Clem as well. The one game he lost was the one game where he lost his Reaper very early on for no reason at all. Yeah, these are little things. Hopefully Astrea can get it together. We know that he's an amazing Protoss player who's got a lot of very cool builds up his sleeve. Just that first game, things not really working out. It was a little bit of everything, but at the same time it was nothing. It was a bit of Glaives, a bit of Blink, a bit of Carriers, a bit of Disruptors, but yeah, nothing really working out.
Yeah, interested to see how Astrea decides to open up in this game. He is going to be adding on that Stargate yet again, adding on the Adepts. It's interesting to think about also approaching a player like Scarlett, because I think she is very diverse in what she can go into and what she can throw at you. She is the player who will throw out the crazy cheeses. She'll throw out, you know, early pools or like a Nidus Swarm Host all in, the Queen pulls and everything. But she'll also be willing to go to the hour and 10-minute mark of just a crazy late game situation. You really do have to be prepared across the board for gameplay with her.
I'm pretty sure that if we would ever have a DreamHack Masters NA without an hour-long game between Scarlett and Neeb, the internet would break or something like that. It just has to happen, whether it's
part of the contract,
stage.
actually.
Yeah, exactly. They're forced. Shopify was like, Scarlett, we'd love to have you on board. We cannot give you any lights, but what we can make sure of is that you get a 1-hour game with Neeb. Otherwise, we'll be really upset. But don't worry, I always do.
Yeah, I'm imagining now. It's like, okay, Scarlett, can we get it a part of your contract that if the game exceeds 1 hour, you have to build a hatchery in the center, so we get the Shopify logo right there in the center of the map. It's like, oh, new advertising prospects.
So far, Astrea is doing the, by the looks of it at least, the exact same thing. Twilight Council after just a single Void Ray. Maybe Astrea is feeling like last game. I didn't lose because the build was bad. I lost just because I messed up in the execution. Scarlett found a lot of success with her Zerglings in the other games, and this is the kind of stuff that she was also able to get away with in her games against Trigger and Nina. This is the initial set of Zerglings being annoying, grabbing a depth, picking up a probe, preventing a Nexus from going up. It may seem minor, but these kinds of things make a big difference because that Nexus could have been 25% done now.
Yeah, and the funny thing that's not always as intuitive in StarCraft is that sometimes the earlier you take your base, the easier it is to defend, and the longer it takes you to actually get down the Nexus, the longer it's going to take. Ooh, nice survival on that in depth, but the longer it's going to take to get up a lot of the defensive structures around that Nexus, like getting up the shield batteries, like getting up, you know, the wall off for the Adept to sit in. It does hurt to lose and have that Nexus delayed.
No, absolutely. We know that Scarlett is not following this up with units immediately, so that's nothing to worry about for Astrea, but it's a great point you make there. For a while, I was like struggling in my own PvZs. I'm like, why the hell is it like harder to take a Nexus the 5-minute mark than it is the 4:05? Like I was getting pissed off. I was like, it's because I've got no HP on that thing. And then when the units show up, it's so easy for Zerglings to just break through. Scarlett is firing up 5 Overlords here though, and the Queen's already in the center. The Void Ray, Astrea, no. That's not how you want to lose your Void Ray, mate.
Yeah, well, those Overlords are finishing up for the Roaches to be started on up. The Lings are actually doing a nice little counterattack. They're going to be able to go after the Pylon and potentially start harassing that Nexus, and they don't even need to really be controlled right now. So Scarlett can focus all of her attention on right-clicking down individual Adepts. I love the focus fire over here from Scarlett, but looks like Astrea is going to be able to pick off one of those Queens. A shade straight into the Roaches and Lings, though. Oh, this is just not going how I'm sure Astrea pictured.
Nope, and let's not forget that we lost a Void Ray, so that means that it's going to be a lot harder to defend against Roaches at home. And I don't think Scarlett is going to stop producing units. Scarlett is holding down the Zergling button at this point, +1 missile attacks is halfway done. The Queens are already making their journey, or, well, starting their journey in the center of the map. It takes a little while. Scarlett's got 52 army supply. Astrea has only 18. I think it's absolutely impossible to defend on 3 bases, but it might even be impossible to defend on 2 bases.
Oh, Kev, I mean, imagine how bad the situation is, knowing also that the Zerglings killing that pylon means that instead of building or having finished the shield batteries right now, the shield batteries are just getting started because there was no pylon to build the shield batteries with. And now we end up seeing sentries starting to get taken out by the Zerglings and the Roaches. Just 2 sentries left over to buy some time, but frankly, Scarlett can just go for the 3rd base, rally some more units forward, and then deal with this army of the natural afterwards.
Oh, look at how exposed the probes are. The Corrosive Bow on the money. Well done by Scarlett. 15 workers going down. And these force fields are actually going to prevent these Protoss units from making it safely into the back of the natural. Scarlett is going to target down that overcharged battery. And I think this is just going to be it. Scarlett may very well be looking at an 8-game win streak here in the playoffs and taking the 2-0 lead. Astrea just has no battle units whatsoever.
I mean, Astrea is just trying to contend with the queens with his entire army, while the rest of the army is killing off his 3rd base. This is definitely not looking to be a good spot for Astrea, and I don't just mean in this game, I mean in this series. This is already Scarlett up 1-0. Losing another one of these games means going down to match point, and Astrea is really struggling. Lings are going to eventually get that kill, and Scarlett is just proudly and boldly charging on into that natural, the Protoss, ready to claim yet another victory here.
Yeah, one thing that I think is very cool is that Astrea just knew way in advance he was going to lose his cyber core, so he already rebuilt it way before it even died, and now it died. That's awesome and all, but it's not going to make a difference here because a couple of Stalkers are not going to stop this Zerg army. Scarlett is just kind of dancing at this point in the natural. Astrea, out of desperation, is just going to fire up an Oracle because he wants to spend his money one way or the other. Scarlett is on 4 bases, 57 drones, going to make a few drones behind this. This is an unstoppable Zerg force, and even if it does get cleaned up, this Nexus will go down too. I've never seen a 1-base Protoss win against a 4-base Zerg.
It's been a very long time since I've seen that happen, Kev. Even in my league. But yeah, it looks like Astrea's going to hold out, maybe just giving himself some time to just kind of think about what he wants to do the next game. And maybe even just looking for the moral victory here. Like, you get the cleanup and then you tap out. At least you feel like you accomplished something this game.
I don't know, man. Being stuck on 1 base, I don't know if oh, he's gonna rebuild, but he will tap out in the end. Scarlett takes the 2-0 lead, and Astrea is really gonna have to switch it up. I don't hate that build, the Void Rays into the Adepts. It just seems that Scarlett is very good in defending it. Scarlett is finding a lot of success in all of her games with that initial set of links. Always in Adept, always at Probe, the delay on the Nexus. And yeah, Astrea needs to clean it up. No more misclicks in the early game. We can't donate Void Rays like that. Scarlett is unstoppable in this lower bracket.
Well, guys, we're going to give Max Angel a few minutes to think about what he wants to do in game number 3, how he wants to adapt given how this series is going. We'll be back in a little bit with potentially the conclusion of this best of 5. We're getting ready to move into game number 3, and honestly, Kev, I'm really tired over this day and the yesterday. Just going into a series, coming back from a break, and it's like, all right, it's 2-0 in favor of this player. I feel like it's been happening a lot, but you know what? It also gives me a bit of hope that a lot of those 2-0s have begun with a reverse sweep, or started moving that direction. I'm hoping it's possible if Astrea can adjust his play a bit.
Yeah, at least to give us a 4 or a 5 game series, that'd be awesome. On the other end, we're looking at the main base of this player being on such an amazing run in the lower bracket. That's quite a story in and by itself. In the bottom left side, we look at the main base of our Canadian Zerg. 8 games in a row at this point, 1 in the lower bracket. Representing the Shopify Rebellion, it's Scarlett.
And up here in the top right-hand side of the map, the Protoss player known as Astrea, but I like to call him Maximilian Angel, who is starting to look a little bit like he is turning into an angel and floating up to heaven. Kev, he really needs to find something to ground himself again.
This has to be such a frustrating series for him so far, where it's like one of these best of 5 where you go into a best of 5 and you're like, all right, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And you blink twice and you're down 0-2, and now he has to win 3 maps in a row to continue his flawless record of making top 2 at the DreamHack Masters NA, and obviously qualify for those season finals that will be happening a month from now. I don't know if it has ever looked more dire than this though, because I feel like we haven't even seen that much yet, Frederick. I know that first game was technically a long game where it's like, okay, there was a carrier, there was some disruptors, but yeah, the adepts didn't work out, the Sentry Stalker move out didn't work out, and then you just looked at the numbers and you're like, Scarlett is so incredibly far ahead. Didn't feel like much of a game, and then in game 2, once again, the adepts, it's not even that they didn't do that much damage. One of the biggest things about these adept openings is the indirect damage, right? The invisible damage. How long can we make this drag on? And if you're a Protoss player, you want it to drag on for a very long time. As a Zerg player, you're like, all right, let's just kill 5 drones to get it over with so I can go back into droning. And it's been working out perfectly for Scarlett, and it's kind of been a disaster for Astrea.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's also really just been throwing Astrea off is it's the early set of like 8 to 12 Zerglings that seem to always find that opportunity right as Astrea is moving out with the Adepts, so we can't pull back with them, or even just the Zerglings poking forward while the Adepts are still in low numbers. It seems like Astrea just keeps getting caught about those, and here we go again, Kev. We got another Stargate coming on out over here with the Adept getting started on up, but it is the follow-up that I'm going to be looking for. Is he just going to throw down another Twilight Council? Is he sticking to his game plan here?
I don't know, but on one hand, like, it's a very easy thing to be like, well, it didn't work the previous 2 games. Why would it work now? I don't think it's the strategy why Astrea is losing. It's the execution of the strategy. And I can absolutely get behind players that sometimes feel a bit stubborn. Yeah, I've lost with this build twice, but I'm actually going to do it again because I'm not losing because of the build. I'm losing because I'm not playing well enough. I don't think that's the case, though. This time, Astrea, I do think, is going to switch it up. and we might even see a second Stargate, and I wouldn't hate that. It's already a bit different as it is an Oracle first. I guess nobody wants to go out losing with the same build 3 times in a row.
Yeah, even getting up the Stalker as well, which I think if Scarlett does poke forward with the Lings, I'm not sure if she already has, she will get a scout out in that, and that usually is also going to be a better indicator that it's probably not going to be as strong of like a mass adept kind of follow-up, since usually for that kind of stuff, you just really want to make all the adepts you can. But Overlord comes on in, is going to scout out and see that the Stargate is not only just, you know, making something right now, it's making actually an Oracle. And that might even be a good indicator that, yeah, it's probably already an Oracle out on the map. The Spore Call is getting started.
First Oracle's heading towards the main base by the looks of it. With 2 queens, Scarlett is going to be more than fine in dealing with this. So the Oracle's going to change his course to the natural. But Scarlett is playing an awesome series so far. She's really not making any mistakes, even saving that drone. Can we save the other one too? Yes, we can. Wow. Scarlett is so on point. It's actually, I'm really impressed so far by what Scarlett is showing us.
Yeah, it's not even that she's doing anything absolutely extraordinary. She's just playing everything super duper solid. It's just all of the basics. Even doing a great job saying, okay, well, I had a few more drones being built at the natural. She just canceled those and built them somewhere else because they just got started. Really, really nice, just clean play from Scarlett right now.
Yep. Twilight Council and a Forge going down in the main base of Astrea as the adept count is currently 2. Seems like Astrea is looking for a little wombo combo here with maybe either the adepts or the oracles finding some damage. It's one or the other. This shade will finish off. These adepts don't have resonating glaives. Perfect surround by Scarlett as well. That's going to allow her to take them out real quick. And the oracles in the main base, they also get deflected by the queens. Astrea finding 3 drones there, but I still feel that Scarlett handled this very well too.
Yeah, I mean, Scarlett is finally getting up to a more comfortable drone count as she starts adding on a few more, getting past like around the 50 counts. And all these Lings actually going to be a little bit threatening here as a force field even being forced out just to keep these sentries alive. But Scarlett is also marching her queens forward and is going to be able to jump on these oracles. Astrea was looking on the other side of the map dealing with the Zerglings.
Yep. Well done by Scarlett as well. As you can see, she didn't just attack the oracles from far away, because then A, you push the oracles away. Oracles move a little bit into a different direction of where they're being attacked from. And B, you obviously give the alert to the Protoss player. So you could really see that Scarlett was trying to right-click her queens under the oracles to potentially get the double kill. That wasn't going to work out, but it's still guaranteed the first kill. Scarlett is playing an awesome series so far in Astrea. He's gonna need a miracle to turn this around. This game maybe is not that bad yet. Definitely still in it. And we are switching it up as we are getting some Archons. We are getting some Zealots. But I'm not like... If I was playing this game as a Protoss, I wouldn't be like, wow, those were 6 amazing minutes. I'd be like, yeah, let's hope I play really good in the upcoming minutes.
Yeah, I mean, Kev, I'm gonna be the optimist here and say this is the best it's been in this series, which is not saying a lot because that obviously hasn't gone very well for Astrea thus far, but I'd say this is the best position he's been going into past around the 7-minute mark. So we'll see if he can still make something happen with what he has, at least so far. Has charge up, is getting up those High Templars to turn into more Archons. He's getting up a stronger mid-game army and finally actually getting to a point where he can actually take a 4th base. But Scarlett is adding on that infestation pit and also moving across the map to try and threaten that 4th base.
Yep, I don't think it's real. I think we're going to fire up some Swarmos, right? It has to be. Scarlett just made 13 additional roaches right when the infestation pit finished up. But wow, 18 roaches. Okay, what? So we made an infestation pit, but we're just going to make 1 million roaches in the Ravagers. And there we have our first 2 Swarmos. Kind of an odd moment to make all those roaches, but roaches are very good against Zealots, and they're pretty decent against Archons too. It depends a little bit on the surface area they can find. Now more Swarmos are coming up behind all of this. Astrea is terribly out of position to deal with this army, or maybe actually able to get on top of the queens, but the Zealot number's not quite there yet to take out these queens.
Yeah, the Archons on their own will only be able to buy so much time. Scarlett, you know, Making all those roaches instead of the swarmos did seem like it was going to be a little bit dicey, but she is absolutely making the most of them. Now forcing herself into a position that is going to be potentially advantageous, but heavily committed right now. A lot of these roaches and ravagers not going to have an easy time escaping. Immortal really going to be packing a punch. Crucible's hitting her own roaches over there, and the Zealots eventually get cleaned up. Even a couple of the queens joining the fray. Another Archon gets popped. And I think that now, yeah, Scarlett can just pull back a little bit, regroup with some of the rest of her army, and then try to maybe just settle for the damage over at the 4th base that she did.
Yeah, if Astrea dispenses money, it's not all that bad. Obviously, the queens can't escape, so Astrea is going to get on top of these queens and just buying yourself some time. When you go up against a basic unit comp like roaches and swarmos, can already be good enough. Careful with the Oracle in the bottom right side. Astrea, not quite careful enough. Flies into 2 queens. Scarlett's even dropping a knight as network. Obviously, that's something that works very well together with swarmos.
Yeah, I think, and the Oracle is actually very good for helping deal with that kind of stuff and just having a bit of vision out in the map, especially when it's just, you know, only ground units that can only attack ground units. There's nothing in the air. Now, Disruptors have an opportunity to get some big damage done, but a first shot is not going to accomplish a whole lot, and the Swarmos dive on in. Shield battery is going to help keep one of the cannons alive for a little bit, but now some of the probes are going to start falling, and Astrea just doesn't have anything inside the natural expansion. He's busy cleaning up the Swarmos. Scarlett even splitting up between the main and the natural. A recall being forced out. Scarlett is just really putting on a clinic in this series, Kev.
Yep, Scarlett is running over Astrea. That's the only way we can really put it. Roaches in the main base, roaches in the natural. Astrea did take care of the main. This obviously means he's a bit out of position. Overcharged battery is going to help out a little bit at the 3rd base. We've already lost 17 probes, and I'm afraid a few more probes are going to fall. Astrea is making the best of it. Can the overcharged battery keep the Nexus alive? No, it expires. This Nexus is absolutely gonna fall. Astrea does have that Nexus in the top left, so we don't lose too many additional probes. Maybe Astrea can find a moment to transfer these workers towards the top left. And geez Louise, is Scarlett putting on a clinic indeed. But maybe Astrea's still got a chance. He's got an army. He's got a base.
He has 81 army supply, and he has some very, very cost-efficient units when they can get the good hits. Those Disruptors can be playmakers, but I mean, Kev, this is the really, really difficult and frustrating conundrum about facing off against Swarm hosts. When do you feel safe moving out? Because as soon as you do, you know that those Swarm hosts are going to unleash a massive wave of locusts into your main, and yeah, you're going to do some damage, but now you have to do more damage than your opponent does. You have to go fully all in. The Zealot Warpin is actually really cleaning house on a lot of those Zerglings, and now the Stalkers start moving on in. Can Astrea make this work?
The Forge gets some power. It's a no +3. Good Nova, though, connecting with a couple of the Ravages. Don't want to be too dramatic, but it really does feel it's now or never for Astrea. If this army dies, I'm afraid that his run is going to end as he lands another good Nova, but the Stalkers are just not that great against Zerglings. One more Nova clips a Ravager, though, where Scarlett her reinforcements. Only 4 Roaches left. Can this army possibly win the game, Fear Dragon?
Oh, the Locust Wave is going to be the really difficult thing to deal with. We have a couple of the Disruptor shots going off, but they are not in time. Actually, they expire a little bit too early to go off on any of the Locusts, and now it's just the Stalkers and the Immortal left over to try and win the game.
And the Zealots in the main. Don't forget about the Zealots in the main base. And now since the Swarmos have just fired, I'm starting to believe that Astrea is making the almost impossible happen. He could cancel +3 on the 4th. I mean, I know that's not something you think of right now, but that's a lot of resources tied up in that +3, or just repower it. But yeah, these Swarmos can't do anything if the Locusts are not ready.
Oh my God!
Astrea gets a point on the board. My goodness, his back up against the wall. It didn't look all that pretty. What a turnaround. We've got a series, Fear Dragon.
Down 80 supply, and granted, it's a lot of that inflated supply of Swarmos and Roaches, but still looked like Astrea was gonna basically have one shot, and that it wasn't panning out after those Swarmos Locusts launched their shot, and all the Disruptors died. But he still makes it work. He splits up his army. And like you were saying, the Zealots in the main base doing so much. Scarlett not using any of the reinforcements to actually take care of those.
Yeah. Oh, that's gotta feel so good for Astrea. I'm sure that he saw his tournament live flash in front of his eyes. Obviously, we want to see a proper series in the lower bracket final. And Scarlett looked untouchable. 8-game winning streak. Started to look like 9, especially when the Roaches and the Ravagers made it into the main base in the natural. And I gotta say that recall Astrea made to the main, it looked a bit weird, right? I'm like, I don't know about that. That actually really saved his main base at first. Managed to not lose too much in the natural. And then had like 7 or 8 Stalkers backed up by an overcharged battery, keeping the third base safe for as long as he did. Amazing victory by Astrea.
Well earned, and now he's going to get another chance to go up against Scarlett in game number 4 here. Still down in, put it match point right now for Scarlett, but Astrea is going to move on to Jagannath to try and see if he can make magic happen again. And even with that last victory, and it got very, very messy and very, very scary there for Astrea, he has had a hard time finding a good start in these PVZs. So we'll see if he can make something happen here as we start up in the top right-hand side of the map. Top of that red Protoss player from Alpha X, he is Astrea.
And that, of course, means that in the bottom left side, we're looking at the main base of our Canadian Zerg representing the Shopify Rebellion. It is a Scarlett. Not a bad first DreamHack Masters for the Shopify Rebellion. Scarlett guaranteed top 3. Now, they probably kind of expected that because Scarlett makes top 3 most of the time. But Lambo making top 3 in Europe is just one hell of an accomplishment.
You know, Kev, I was going to say, Shopify boosts a bunch of the prize pools with DreamHack and TLC and all this other stuff. And also, all of their players starting to do really, really well this season. Is it a coincidence? I mean, maybe just the more money and passion and love you put into StarCraft, the better all your players will do. The more success you see in life, actually.
So you're telling me that if I suck up to TLO and I join Shopify, I can qualify for a DreamHack field, right?
Then maybe or probably of Astrea beating you will become a maybe instead, or a maybe not.
I don't see a Shopify tag at Astrea. Superpower.
That's what he's been missing, Kev. That's what he needs this series.
No, it's gotta feel so good to win a game like that when you know that if you lost that game, you're out of the tournament and your dreams of making to the season finals are done. Your dreams of getting a shot at redemption versus Neep are done. Whew. Like when the Nidus goes up and you lose your Nexus, you lose all those probes in the main base, you know this is it. Like this army is pretty much gonna win me the game. And it got weird when the Swarmos did pop their Locusts in the natural, right? And the Disruptors were forced to go into the main base by themselves. My goodness, amazing crisis management there by Astrea.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'll admit it, Kev. I was counting him out after he lost the Disruptors, but I think we've even seen it a bit in this series where it seems like Astrea sticks around in some of these games a bit longer than seems, necessarily reasonable, as you got a 1-base Protoss player facing off against a 4-base Zerg, and he's still kind of fighting it out. But it is because, and I have seen Astrea do this many a time, where even versus very good players, he just makes miracles happen from a very down and out position. I think it's actually one of his big strengths. And one of my favorite places where I saw him do that a lot actually was in the War Chest Team League. He was constantly playing these best of ones where he would actually fall really far behind and then make this insane comeback down at almost like 25 to 30% of his opponent's supply. I think he's very good at that, and I think that is something that has saved his bacon a little bit in this series so far.
These 12 links are really early. Make it 16 links. Make it 26 links. Okay. What? The drones are being pulled too? What the hell? Scarlett is going full rogue on us.
Yeah, so the idea for those who haven't seen this before, you mineral walk those drones into the adept that's walling off, and then when you actually are halfway through into the adept, you hold position and move around.
Okay, can we wall off? A wall off would be amazing. Astrea should pull all the probes, or the shield barrier isn't here yet, but the Oracle is. Pulsar beam is going to be fantastic here. Can the probes keep the Zerglings at bay? Can they hold the line? No, they cannot hold the line. And that means the floodgates are open, and that means it's going to be difficult. But obviously, Scarlett is very committed here. What are we going to do with the probes? You need to send them to the natural.
Yeah, sends him over to the natural. The Stargate is about to pop out another one of these oracles. Tries to go for a wall in with a pylon, as well as actually trying to add on a forge. Shield battery just gets canceled. Actually, a bunch of buildings get canceled, so they can afford to warp in 2 more at depth. The next oracle ends up popping on out, but since he canceled the wall, more Zerglings come streaming on in, Kev.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that decision. I mean, the oracles are going to run out of juice. There are more Zerglings dancing in the natural of Astrea. He's trying to do his best, trying to micro his probes as well as he can. Waiting. Oh my goodness, if he would have opened up with a Void Ray, right? Imagine a Void Ray having some constant DPS. Only 7 probes left, 6 probes left, 5, make it 4. And Scarlett, her rush has been an incredible success. Uh-oh.
What a way to go out. Scarlett absolutely ruthless there in game number 4.